Following a career as a chef in Auckland and London, Brian Turley was looking for a slower pace of life in Motueka that would allow him more time with his young family. Having found a lack of variety of mushrooms readily available for consumers in New Zealand, he began Mighty Mushrooms, a boutique gourmet mushroom business. He now grows and sells fresh and pickled mushrooms and other mushroom products at the Nelson Farmers Market.
We grow mainly oyster mushrooms, do some shiitake, tawaka. In the winter we do enoki, and then we also do the coral tooth mushroom, the New Zealand hericium, and we'll probably do outdoor mushrooms, the King Stropharia mushrooms as well when we set up garden beds.
Yep, I get these every week.
Some of them are easier than others. The starting one's always the oyster mushroom, which is the easiest to grow. Then you get more complicated mushrooms like shiitake, which have different stages of growth. And when you first start, you also have to learn about the bacteria and molds that you see. And as you get a bit better in it, more experienced, you see less of it until you don't see any of it. And then each mushroom's different in itself. So you can buy the cultures. You can either buy it in spawn form or on agar plates or liquid culture from various suppliers in New Zealand. There's 3 well-known ones in the South Island that I buy from. Or you can go and find the mushrooms in the forest wild and then just have them DNA tested by Landcare or laboratory to make sure it is what it is, and then you can get them that way as well. So this is the colonisation room and also use it as my lab. And we inoculate the grain here, and then from here we do the bags, and we use the flow hood to keep it sterile as possible. First I sterilise everything by wiping it down with isopropyl alcohol to kill all bacteria. And then we use the flame sterilisation on the scalpel and the injection to make sure that everything is completely sterile. And I dipped it into sterilised water just to cool down the scalpel so it won't damage the mycelium when I cut into it. I cut the agar plate, 2 small pieces to put into the liquid culture. And in that has sterilised honey and water. And in that the mycelium will grow, and you can inoculate countless bags of grain with that. Using the injection of the liquid culture into the sterilised rye berries, from that it will grow through in about a week. And then from that bag, I can make another 10 bags. And then from those 10 bags, can make 100 bags. We grow on various kinds of wood. We grow the shiitake on New Zealand beech, some of them on pine, some mixed pine and oak. When we first started, we did straw, but we found it was quite unreliable and you wouldn't get a consistency all of the time. We use this room as the higher humidity room to pin the mushrooms, which means just getting them to start to grow. And then when they start to pin, small pins here, we move them to the other room where we can lower the humidity so the mushrooms don't get too wet. People are becoming more and more interested about mushrooms, and they're more interested about growing them. So we sell small grow blocks, so they're not too expensive for people to buy. And we just mainly do the oyster mushrooms because they're the easiest to grow, they're hardest to mess up. I started pickling mushrooms when I first started growing them. I wanted a way to use up any leftover mushrooms or ones that weren't fit for being sold, and smaller mushrooms as well. Most growers dry them. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to sell dried mushrooms because you have to sell them for quite a lot of money to get your money back on them. So we decided pickling, and being a chef, I thought that was the obvious choice to do something with food. We do a tom yum and a tom kha. The reason we chose the Thai soups is because of their sourness. So they can keep the pH level very low to make them shelf stable, like the same as the pickled mushrooms. So we did those, plus my wife's Thai, so we went with that, and yeah, they're going well. People are enjoying them. At the moment, I could grow 50 kilo a week if I wanted to. It depends on, it's very, very labour intensive, so it's how much work I want to, how many hours a day I want to do. And at the moment, it's how much I can sell to people. The markets are very, very quiet at the moment with the COVID. Restaurants are very quiet. A lot of them are just doing takeaways and they not seating as many people. So yeah, last summer we would grow a lot more. We'd probably sell about 10 kilo a day at the market and probably about 80 to 100 jars over a couple of weeks. We are already started to scale up a little bit. So I have the two grow rooms here, and I have one bigger off-site grow room where we're mainly just going to grow the oyster mushrooms, and I'll use the two that I have here to grow the more specialty mushrooms.